I want to give you my favorite build for open world on Thief. And for this, you can see I'm wielding pistol, the specifics of which we're going to get into very deeply in a second. Now, Thief is a really interesting one in that, for me, I'm going Deadeye PP, but there's also another very strong build. The hotly contested one is Staff on Daredevil. I'm going to give you my explanations as to why I think this one is so much better. But still, both are viable, and as you can see through this video, so are a ton of swaps. Let's open up with a little bit of example gameplay showing exactly what the build is like before we run into the skills and what's running. One of the most prominent strengths of this build is being able to kill chain and super effectively. So I'm coming to one of the expansions here. This is not core where everything's ultra squishy. And I want to show you what it's like just running around, how quickly we can assassinate each target. But also, look at my utility skills. My elite is currently on cooldown. Every kill, it's chunking up really fast. Currently, we need a minute for it to cool down. We score a kill, it's down to just 33 seconds as I'm now speaking. We'll score another kill, and we can basically recast our elite. So, one of the more interesting sides of this build is how it's very good at kill chaining, and the more it kill chains, the more it ramps. It's going to be building lots of fury, lots of cooldown reduction, lots of might, based on just scoring kill after kill after kill after kill, and then being able to put new Deadeye's marks out very rapidly. So that's the idea in this section of Heart of Thorns that I wanted to show you guys. What's also great, with a build like this, you'd usually think it's going to be very weak against bosses, since it gets a lot of value from actually finishing targets. But in this next clip, you'll see I'm going to go solo a group event, a champion in Ore. Now, even when I was originally thinking of sharing open world builds with you guys in this video series, I knew that this was a little moment I wanted to demonstrate. The build obviously will super effectively and quickly clear away other targets in the area. Even through weakness there, we blew that guy up in almost a single animation. But this boss himself does insane pressure on auto attacks and also has mass AoE. So, yeah, we have the damage to finish off this very quickly. Yeah, we have the break bar capacity to finish this off very quickly. Yeah, we have all the initiative regeneration we need. But look at my health. Look at how quickly my health drops. We get clipped by a single thing. Here I'm struggling to jump and get around the thing. We get hit by an auto attack. And a second later, one animation later, we're back up to full health. I can take a new target in the middle of any boss fight I like, such as here, to reclaim a little bit of ramp if I really feel that's necessary. The main reason I was killing that wizard there, in truth, was because I didn't want his weakness application on me. And as you watch, the wizard will hit us every now and then with a lightning storm that it casts on auto attack. And after one animation, our health is fully regenerated. I could just stand still. I'm WASing D'ing right now, but it's not actually relevant. Obviously, don't stand still in one of the AoEs. But this is so strong for this reason. I especially love a lot of these champions that now, on this build, I'm able to take out. Several builds on this series I'm showing you can't do this, but a Deadeye on Pistol has that freedom and comfort. More relevant, perhaps, would be utilizing the same technique in a Heart of Thorns hero challenge. We've already seen several across the open builds, but not the very first one. This honestly is not as hard as some of the others, but I think it's interesting as far as this build's concerned because it is multi-target. We're going to be facing one big boss and 4 additional bosses. So the one big downside is AoE. As much as I've just really demonstrated these perks, our AoE is much more limited, and we have to decide with what target is actually important right now. I'm even going into this fight without my elite skill ready, which is quite rare for this build. It's nearly always there. So here, I could easily focus the small guys and kill, and then the big guy with all the ramp, and that would be the most efficient way. But even if I do it inefficiently, trying to take out the main boss with lots of other things swarming me, I'm okay. They didn't really hit me much, but if they did, I would have just regenerated as long as I continued having that line of sight. So again, this was one of the more simple hero challenges from Heart of Thorns, but it's a build that will shine here as much as wherever else. With limited AoE aggression, this is going to be one of the hardest fights you can do against multiple Flame Djinn, but one really important tool we have at our disposal is additional allies that will take aggro from us. So a lot of these big splash cones of damage won't be aimed at us like there as I was running away. My thieves tanked that hit and I'm still at 100% health. It was kind of hard to demonstrate this honestly because I don't really have the range to get all of them together very comfortably, so 3 at once feels a little better. But here you can see they're not necessarily charging me. I get this really important window to lay the pain down. I'm not actually playing too well here, but you can still see how good the build is. I get chunked really hard, and as long as I can continue doing damage, I get my health back. Which is kind of hard because one of the guys died right as I was landing on one of my unloads. I do go down and instantly rally. Rallying is quite easy on Thief because of the Signet of Agony comboing with your bouncing auto attacks. But the main thing, as always, about these Jinn is getting their break bars down, which you'll notice I've teched my utility skills to be able to accomplish as regularly as possible. The most simple thing to do here would be aggro a Jinn, break his bar, assassinate him. Aggro a Jinn, break his bar, assassinate him. And that you're going to be able to rapidly do that. But I couldn't so comfortably since I wanted to be under AoE aggression. Anyway, here you can see, look at how quickly we break this guy's bar. And then 2 unloads after his bar's done. Before his stun is even over, we've done 40,000 damage and he's dead. So limited AoE is our weakest attribute. It's one of the things that Starve does much better by comparison. So let's see the Pocket Raptor test. For this one, we're doing what, in my opinion, is the worst area of Pocket Raptors in Heart of Thorns. It's the run down the western line of the Auric Basin toward the falls. And, well, there's lots of packs of Pocket Raptors all together. Here you'll see I aggro 2 at once. So one of the big tools we have is Black Powder, which means many of the Pocket Raptors that come into us will be blinded before their strike. It's very costly on the initiative. So the downside is you don't get too much AoE, but you also don't get tons of kills, which means you can keep spamming Thieves Guilds, which will help you shift aggro. One of the Thieves Guilds as well, the Deadeye ally you summon, actually casts Shadow Flare, a mass pulsing AoE. We could run 2 on our bar. That would be a better utility for this demonstration, realistically. But that can help a massive, massive, massive amount. So in one way, yeah, we do struggle. We are threatened here, and you will see me getting low. On the other hand, things die so quickly that you can get marked so quickly and your new summons so quickly, you can still comfortably get through if you're taking your target right. Overkilling is actually one of the biggest problems. A full unload will kill a Pocket Raptor and then some. So if you can take a target that hits some of the Pocket Raptors between you and your main target, so every single bullet lands at least on something, thus you didn't overkill for initiative spent, you're in the best situation. So that's the build, that's how it operates. I think you'll agree it's really good, and we'll fly through all PvE stuff. Let's see exactly how it works, so you can run it too. So Thief is obviously a very squishy class that can get a lot of damage modifiers. Looking at that, immediately I knew one of the main ways I'd want to go with this build is to play into range wherever possible. And as far as the profession is currently configured, that means we can play with pistols, or we can play with short bow, or we can play with rifle. Now, short bow is actually not that bad for the open world. I'm not joking. If you're reasonably competent with cluster bomb, you can kind of just spam this at things and get kills. You also got okay mobility to then quickly disengage out of what fight you want to be in, and then, you know, get onto your mount moments later. So it's okay, but when it comes to anything slightly sturdier, this just doesn't go anywhere. It's an incredible weapon, and I think that when you take it into the other formats of the game, like PvP, it's a hot contender for one of the best weapons in the game. It's not really what we're looking for. It's the kind of thing you'd probably prefer against Pocket Raptors or something. Then, as a Deadeye, you obviously also get Rifle, which also is okay, but just generally feels a bit clunky. The whole needing thing is awesome, and again, super fun in certain formats, but it's just a bit too static for me. I think a lot of people do underestimate Rifle, especially when compared with Thieves Guild. If other things are taking the aggro, and you can easily shift it to them with, you know, a quick little combo finisher, at that point, you can play very, very bunky and just kind of snipe a lot of your targets down, but then you're even more reliant on the Thieves Guild than I'd rather. Also, it's not a bad mobility weapon. If you're used to the quick about face spam, like so, you can actually move pretty fast, especially if you spam the skill, combine it with some other utilities like withdraw and stuff. But nonetheless, I still think if you're going for range, pistol is better. Hopefully the introduction demonstrates that. It's just very quick at taking any target. It's very quick at getting its damage out. In fact, one of the things I said I valued in the introduction of this series is ease of use and quality of life. This is such high quality of life, you can actually hold left control and right click unload to make it your auto attack. And now all I have to do is mark my target, execute the unload, and, well, he died instantly there because of the pressure and it's only a scale. But your character will actually just auto-cast this over and over and over and over again. You can kind of go completely hands-free to an extent. But you do have to pay attention to certain things, as we'll run with the traits in a second, in terms of recuperating our initiative. You don't want to go too crazy with the unloads. So yeah, that's really why I went with pistol. You can melee with staff. Staff has big AoE radius, lots of spike damage. It's fun, and the way that staff sustains going in melee is through lots of evades, but it does mean there's those little windows where you feel just that bit more vulnerable. And so starting with the pistols, I kind of could define the rest of the build. Sort of. I mean, here we're running Trickery, Critical Strikes, and Deadeye. This is the way that I'm recommending. However, there are definitely variants that can run Deadly Arts. The big benefit that you're going to get out of Deadly Arts is Mug. This is a build that, as a Deadeye, is going to take a mark on a target. You're going to drop the Deadeye's mark, which will, give you your boons, and it will give you your malice as you hit them and do all your wonderful steal stuff. But when they die, it will refresh, and you immediately Deadeye's mark something else. That's not possible on Daredevil, and that's not possible on Core Thief. But for Deadeye, it means we spam this skill. And if you're spamming this skill, picking up something like Mug is really nice. You do damage whenever you steal. Whenever you mark someone, you actually start chunking them. Now, I know that tooltip only reads 1,700, and it can't crit, okay? But that is a significant amount of damage, especially when dealing with squishier things, like the scale here, like pocket raptors, like anything in Corteria. And that Mug means most targets will get hit with some damage, and then one unload will finish them off. And there's a whole load of other ways that you can look at the other traits. The thing is, initiative starts getting really dicey, and in some ways you might consider that to be overkill. The overall most balanced version of this, for me, has definitely been Trickery, for the higher initiative pool and some incredible other traits which we will get into in just a second. The other line here, Critical Strikes, is also something you might like to sub off and you could play with. Maybe you decide to go Deadly Arts on this instead, but again, after a lot of play as sort of a general baseline thing, I think that this is my favorite combo so far. So before we run through all 18 of these, let's establish exactly how our skills are working, what our utilities do, and what swaps we can make there. So first of all, for the weapon skills and the profession mechanic, yeah, you just run over, you drop Deadeye's mark on a target so that it will, you'll be able to start building malice from it. You're going to get various boons that our traits are offering. You can get a stolen skill as well, which we can use later. You basically just run over and use Unload. Unload will be lots of damage, lots of packets as well, which means it will get through blind and Aegis and stuff like that, make you a bit more vulnerable to retaliation. It's pure projectile oriented as well, by the way. So there are certain mobs, especially in Heart of Thorns, that reflect quite a lot, and you have to be scared of those. You have to be cautious. There's actually an interesting build, and one of my favorite builds to play, not just because it's optimal for so many reasons, but actually because it leads to interesting gameplay you don't experience elsewhere in Guild Wars 2. It makes you think about certain enemies differently. Like if I'm just running around on a Dragon Hunter that's spamming tethers and traps and sword skills and whatnot, and greatsword, I don't really think about projectile reflex my targets might be throwing up. But on this build, you actually do. There's a dimension of the game that sometimes counters you, so you want to be careful of that. This is the main skill, okay? Aside from this, you might auto if you've completely initiative drained yourself. You might sometimes throw a quick body shot out because it's a mobilization, which will be break bar drain for you. You might sometimes throw a headshot out for a bit of break bar drain, and you might very rarely drop a black powder if you're being swarmed by, like, say in Path of Fire, lots of scarabs. It's not just pocket raptors, but there's other certain situations where you might get swarmed by lots of little creatures, and the black powder is gonna blind them as they come towards you. But again, quite a lot of initiative. Mostly, you're just gonna be unloading. The other thing that will happen, and it might be kind of difficult for me to demonstrate here because everything's so squishy, is you might run out of initiative. And there's a thing you can do with your stealth skill. So on Deadeye, our ambush abilities are much stronger. So what we can do is we can Deadeye's mark, and about 3 unloads in, or maybe it's just 2 unloads in, we'll max our malice out. And once our malice is maxed out, if we hit our stolen skill, it will not only give us the benefits of the stolen skill, like maybe more boons or a bit of damage or whatever's going on with it, but it will stealth us. And if you're careful with that stealth, you can instead auto-attack, and instead you'll use this malicious sneak attack. Now, the malicious sneak attack is a lot like Unload. Let's be clear. Unload is 8 separate shots of damage. The malicious sneak attack is 5 separate shots of damage. It's not far away. And also it does, some Condi and stuff on there. So you can use this as like a mini Unload that isn't costing you 5 initiative. It's basically free. Okay, it is free. So that's one little thing that you might like to do. And if you rewatch my little intro, if you're against a single big boss, that's one thing you can just do to sustain your initiative as you keep unloading on some kind of big boss, but there's other things that we'll be doing as well. Weapon swapping is also a major part of this build. You'll notice that I have the way my weapon's set up here. I have a pistol on my main hand for weapon set 1 with no offhand. And on weapon set 2, I have a pistol on my offhand with no main hand. And what this means is I can weapon swap with just 2 pistols, and I'll get the pistol set on either side, because the game is intelligent enough to mix this in on my main hand and to mix this in for my offhand, depending on which weapon set that I'm on. So you always get the 2 skills, but we're actually toggling through different weapon sets right now. So why this is good is because of our traits later. You could do this setup with just 2 pistols, or if you craft more, you can actually... and I don't actually have any on my character right now, amazingly. Wow. If you craft more, you can actually have all 4 pistols set up. And then when it comes to like gear and stuff, you can maybe have Bloodlust on one of them, and then no Bloodlust on the other. But because you're swapping through and swapping through, I felt they didn't really matter. And this is a cool thing to demonstrate here. But you can go 4 pistols, and that gives you a little bit more variety with the sigils sometimes. But, you know, unless you do very specific skins and you're looking at your character as you're swapping, you won't necessarily know which sigils are active at which point and so on. Anyway, so yeah, that's one big thing that you can do, and we're really just looking at that. There is another way you can play where you have both pistols like this and you keep the short bow down here or whatever, so you have a real other weapon set, or maybe rifle if that's really what's important to you. Some people would advocate rifle in the other set because it does have that kind of infiltrator's arrow substitute. However, the way I'm showing you with my specializations today, that's a little bit less possible, and I really recommend what you see here, okay? So, yeah, let's talk about utility skills next. So you do have some options. First of all, I'm on the Signet of Malice. Now, what this does is it means we heal whenever we attack. And because we are on Unload, this is 8 attacks. This is 8 procs of the Signet of Malice, okay? So, you just get synergy there, and this helps you to resustain. The truth is... The amount of resustain you get per activation of this is not as high as you would expect. It's really not. And so you can sub this off if you really want. My main recommendation to you would actually be Hide in Shadows, because this is a big Condi cleanse for you. Say you've just finished a fight, you can trigger this and get on your mount quicker. But it's also a disengage for you in terms of being a stealth skill. So if it's looking a bit dicey, you can activate this and try to run away. So this is the main other set. I would also say if you're very comfortable with the about face techniquing, you can go for withdraw. The others I really wouldn't worry about too much. I wouldn't worry about the Venom, and I wouldn't worry about the Deadeye heal. But in terms of max quality of life, Signet of Malice is pretty good. You're not really going to activate this much unless you're in a really dire situation. Mostly just trigger your unloads and your ambushes, and you'll be fine. Then my regular skills I've got here is Assassin Signet, which is a boost of power for us. The Signet of Agility, which is a boost of precision for us, as well as a triple Condi cleanse if we activate it, plus double endurance. So this skill's just insane, okay, because it's good quality of life and it's good passive damage. And then finally, I've dedicated my last slot to Break Bar. So let's talk slowly first of all. What's so good about the Assassin Signet? Well, yeah, it gives you passive power. But also, on this build, as long as we're rapidly killing, we can chunk the cooldowns of our utilities down like mad, okay? So if I activate the Assassin Signet, I get an even stronger version of it here for this window. See how long this is lasting? And it finally leaves there. For that window, I have 540 power. Power is massively increased. Now, here's the fun thing. Because we have our utility skills recharging so fast, if we have lots of targets, we can actually activate the Signet and benefit from the active and the passive at the same time. So what do I mean? I really should have picked a better place. I picked this place because it's pretty, for what it's worth. What I mean here is, if I come over to this Reef Drake, I target the Reef, and say I know that there's lots of targets in the area. I target the Reef Drake. I can trigger the Signet, kill the Reef Drake, come to the scale, kill the scale under the power of the Signet. If you notice, if there were just a couple more mobs around, and I was a little bit quicker on the trigger finger, we could have recharged Assassin Signet already. And we would still have the passive. You could even have the passive active with the active, right, for just insane power stacking. So it's totally viable to use this actively during gameplay too. Actually, you could just leave it totally passive, or you can be triggering it as you go. So that's what he's out of range, so we're not going to quite be in space here. And I'm not sure I even have an underwater skill available. So he has survived, damn it. All right, he's coming. So that's one thing I really like about this Distance Signet. There are other things you can run for a little bit more playmaking potential, definitely, but it's cool. And as for the Signet of Agility, I've just happened to have built this character going for 100% crit and whatnot. Utilizing the precision from this, you can instead go heavier on the precision with your runes and whatnot, as I explained in the gear video, and you're not necessarily going to be reliant on this. Again, you can run other stuff. Big recommendations from me would be Blinding Powder or Shadow Refuge, again, for big disengages if you're going with the Signet of Malice. Shadow Step is an incredible skill. It allows you to move around quicker. Quite often, in this kind of content, there might be an event a little bit off in the distance, and you want to tag it before it ends. And if you're on a thief, you're going to want that. You're going to toggle that Shadow Step on there, especially if you don't have the short bow on your other set, right? Nowadays, with mounts in the game, it's nearly always better to mount up than like short bow, but you could like short bow jump forwards, exhaust all your initiative, and then got an amount or something. Same with Shadow Step. You can Shadow Step forwards and get on your mount and go. So this is a really fun skill, a very strong one that I like an awful lot. What's also kind of nice is Shadow Flare, which is the big AoE you saw in the footage at the start of the video. One of my NPCs was casting, and this can round you out in those AoE scenarios a bit more. Lastly, if you trait a little bit differently or you're expecting to be in a really long boss fight, Mercy is very good. So what Mercy will do is you will target your boss, you'll unload. You'll do like 150,000 damage. It will still be alive, and your initiative will be out. And what you can do is press Mercy. It will give you like all your initiative back. Reset your mark so you can go again with that, because the mark will run out eventually if it's one big boss. And you can go, it's just kind of a big reset in the middle of the fight for you. So Mercy is a super fun skill that I would definitely look into. If you're anticipating going into a really long fight, that's something you can toggle on. Aside from that, then I would look into break bar stuff. So now, for me, I kind of like to have one slot for it. And right now I'm using Binding Shadow. This was extremely good in certain circumstances, okay? It's a 3-second knockdown. Well, basically, we cast the skill. It goes out on a delay to our target. And then the 3-second knockdown is massive break bar damage. Here, I'll show you what it looks like on this scale. Who doesn't have a break bar, obviously? You see this line comes out? And then it hits him, it does that. But on the back, it also even has a little bit of a mob, which helps to drain a bit further as well. Which is why you see in some of that opening footage, I drop a headshot afterwards. They already have a mob, so body shot, you know, this doesn't necessarily have as fast impact as a headshot, which is a nice little daze on there. But so I love this. The other one that is also very good is Scorpion Wire. And in fact, I think against the Jinn, you saw me running both. Scorpion Wire has ammunition on it now, as some people out of touch from Path of Fire might not realize. So you can kind of just throw this Scorpion Wire out and it's a pull, and you can throw it out and it's another pull, okay? So that's what I would do there. Of course, if you run a different elite, like Basilisk Venom, this is also really good break bar. But I don't think anything comes as close to Thieves Guild for general all-purpose PvE. They're just so useful. They drop blinds out, they drop CCs out, they drop mass AoE out. They are incredible. And you can permanently have them up. You can permanently have 3 allies up that mean you're not getting hit. Look at him. He's already CC'd. He's already blinding combo finished. If any spider was here. And, you know, this guy's about to snipe this guy. It's not even about the pressure necessarily. It's about the utility they randomly spam out. And it's about the fact that I'm not the one being attacked. And you can just kind of keep these guys based on how our traits are set up. So I really like this. If you don't like it, maybe Daggerstorm has some utility because it's big evades and it can be good damage. Maybe Shadow Meld once again to escape you can think about. But I think that Thieves Guild is far and away the most fun one. I actually think as well, by the way, it might work going something like Warband support based on the way that our traits work. We'll have to look in a minute. Maybe it only procs on thief skills instead of racial skills, but that'd be kind of fun that you could spam something like Warband support, which is basically like a slightly worse Thieves Guild. I'm an Ash Legion char as well, which does change how this skill works mechanically, so I don't know, it's kind of close. But there you have it. So let's get into our specializations. Starting off with the Trickery line and what's so great about it. First of all, Kleptomaniac. We get initiative every time we steal. So this is one of the things that makes us a powerhouse when there's plenty of little targets. Steal to some small target like a scale we just saw. You kill it, you've drained a bit of initiative, but as soon as you steal to the next one, Kleptomaniac procs, and you're back up max initiative. and it's like you never even killed the original one, except now you have boons and things, as we'll be demonstrating in a second. So that's great. Preparedness, increase maximum initiative. This really is just delaying the inevitable that ultimately you might find yourself initiative drained. It's like, it feels better than that in practice, though. It gives you a bit more of a cushion, a bit more leeway, which will let you get that last bit of damage out, that last little unload before your next initiative refund comes in. This is such an initiative costly build. A lot of it is about bringing initiative back, and that's where Trickery is so good. Then finally, lead attacks. As we spend initiative, we get more damage, which is brilliant, and we can Deadeye's mark more regularly. So both facets of this double trait are brilliant. And lead attacks is one of the... there's so much damage on the other lines. If you were to go Deadly Art and Crit Strike, it's crazy damage. But here you actually get to recoup a little bit as well. It's one of the reasons Trickery can still feel really, really solid. There's such a thing as overkilling as well, which I kind of think running both Crit Strikes and Deadly Arts is. But there you go. There's something to be said for overkilling like mad, so everything you kill only ever takes one animation, so therefore it's a little bit better, but in practice I don't think it works that well. Okay, so that's your minors. Now, for Trickery, also, we have these. Uncatchable is a bit of comedy damage whenever you dodge. You're not really going to worry about that. Burst of Agility, which is cast lesser haste when you attack someone from behind on the side, is okay, especially if you trait for tricks, because, it's extra quickness, it's extra fury. However, it won't proc as regularly as Thrill of the Crime. So this is whenever you steal, or Deadeye's Mark, you're going to be giving yourself Fury, 3 Might, and Swiftness every single time. And you do it really regularly. So this is a bit higher on the quickness, but I feel fine for quickness anyway, as we'll see with other traits. So I like Thrill of the Crime, just because it keeps ramping that might. You can kill a target in that 10 seconds these 3 might exist, so you're actually getting 6 might of it, or maybe even getting 9, maybe even getting 12 might out of just this one trait. And, just having that constant cushion of Fury on there and Swiftness feels better than the more irregular burst of Agility here. For this next selection, it's really kind of boring. We don't really have a choice. The bottom one, Pressure Striking. This is Torment when we interrupt. It's not that important. If this also had like a bit of cripple after an interrupt, it would be a huge recommendation from me because it would be extra break bar drain. However, as it stands, Condition Thief is more than strong enough in the other formats. It doesn't need like cripple on there too. This is not a recommendation. This one as well, Trickster. This is only a recommendation for me if you take this here, which is a lesser trick, and then maybe you decide, okay, I've got enough precision, so I'll run haste down here, right? And just keep the quickness going with lesser haste and regular haste and the trait. Maybe you could do that. But in general, it's not that important to me. Also, if you're running, say, Withdraw, or you're trying to recuperate initiative through even more wild stuff I haven't really recommended here, like roll for initiative, you can look into it. But in general, the way that I'm recommending right now is to take Bountiful Theft. This is really the only one that will give us value. And it is good. Whenever we steal, we give ourselves Vigor. And Vigor is nice at any point. Even just as an extra boon for us and, rolling modifiers out of that. But beyond this as well, it actually does steal boons from enemies. And for regular Guild Wars 2, like way back in 2012, no one really valued that. And why would you? Because nothing gives themselves boons. But here in Path of Fire, all I have to do is go through the Bone Wall here. I'll see a ton of Awakened. Awakened give themselves loads of boons. I think they might even give themselves stuff like Resistance. Not that that matters against this build. But they give themselves Prot and stuff. You can now break through that. I think they have a passive, which means if they are attacked at range, they automatically give themselves boons. And now you can take them for yourself. And smash them to allies for what it's worth. So, Bountiful Theft is really the main way you're going to roll here. Now we have the Grandmaster, and the Grandmaster is what's going to explain our weird stuff with our pistols over here. We are going to run Quick Pockets. Gain initiative on swapping weapons while on combat. So that's 3 initiative. So the other 2 aren't really that relevant. Sleight of Hand, maybe for like break bars against the Djinn or whatever. Or some very specific scenario. But the way you play is you engage usually with Deadeye's Mark. You're going to open so you can get boons. Okay, like Thrill of the Crime we've already seen as one of the first ones that we're looking at here. And then, other boons we'll see later. And then you want to build Malice and stuff. So you kind of want to open with this, which means that you can't wait for a break bar to pop up for Sleight of Hand. And besides, it's only a daze. And then for building Ambush, it's just a bit of confusion and we're not building condition damage. Not only is it, though, that these don't look that good, it's that Quick Pockets is pretty much necessary if you're spamming unload. It's so much initiative. So here's how this works. We unload, we unload, we unload, we unload, and we weapon swap as we're unloading. Okay? And every time we weapon swap, we get initiative back. So I will show you this here. I'm going to drain a ton of initiative, get myself in combat with this scale, and watch as I weapon swap here. We chunk our initiative back up. So that's one of our biggest initiative resustain mechanics. It doesn't cost us anything to weapon swap, because we're always going to stay on pistol, and we're triggering quick pockets whenever we hit that weapon swap hotkey. Now, there are some things to think of. Now, first of all, unload itself. You don't want to interrupt unload, because this is your damage and might generation. In the first place, you don't want to interrupt unload. But unload also has a facet to it, which is unload will refund us 2 initiative, so not as much as quick pockets, but it will refund us 2 initiative as long as every single bullet lands. Now, the game doesn't care which target it hits, so if I'm fighting into a massive, packet of spiders or something over here, I could shoot the one behind, right? I'm aiming at that guy behind, but as long as all my bullets hit the one in front, we will get our initiative back. So the game is to keep... You really want all of these to land. You don't want to overkill with unload, as I mentioned earlier, because not only is it just inefficient for damage, but it's screwing you out of initiative. You want to make sure they all trigger. Now, here's a funny thing. When you quick pockets weapon swap, look what's happened. We're permanently unloading on this build, right? So look what happens. I'm unloading. I quick pockets. It stopped halfway. So the only thing you need to think about on this build is do not try to trigger quick pockets while unloading. It's not like going to destroy you. You're not going to be completely ruined for it. But over time, you will lose initiative. What you want to do is finish a full unload, then quick pockets, okay? And obviously, you don't have to wait for all the projectiles to land. You just have to wait for you to stop shooting. And you'll get a sense for the timing of that. It does get a little bit iffy because you're going to have quickness for a lot of these kills and as you go into the fight. So the first unloads, you can trigger quick pockets a bit quicker. And you're going to be looking for that first quick pockets really early. But you'll get used to it, okay? That's the main thing. Just don't interrupt the unload with the weapon swap. It'd be kind of cool if the game was robust enough to recognize that the cooldown was on both bars and we weren't interrupted, but... That's the thing. So as long as you're doing that, you're going to be swimming in initiative, and that's really the main thing. The build is totally playable, guys, without quick pockets, without kleptomaniac, and without preparedness. It totally is playable, but it feels way more comfortable with all of these, all right? And so that's why my recommendation, as sort of just for all the things I prioritize and care about in PvE, this you will have the most fun on, I promise. So, moving on, let's just take some damage. Now, critical strikes is my favorite way to deal with this, because we actually get to make some swaps on the Grandmaster. Let's roll through, first of all. Keen Observer, we get 5% increased crit while we're at high health. We're going to stay at high health because we have such massive resustain and we're range, okay? We kill a lot of things before they can even get a hit on us, all right, as you've been seeing. Next, Unrelenting Strikes, get Fury when we hit someone who's below the health threshold. This actually isn't really that relevant. We've got tons of Fury from Thrill of the Crime anyway, but this is good when you're not kill chaining. Next, Ferocious Strikes, gain increased critical damage against foes whose health is over 50%. So this is kind of like a reverse executioner trait. It just means we hit harder at the start. And then when they get below 50% health, we've got a ton of might, and then that will take us through the rest, right? So now let's look at our decisions. And there's 2 that you can really go for here. It's either the top or the bottom. So first there's Twin Fangs. Deal additional crit damage while we are at a high health, which we will be for all the reasons I already explained for Keen Observer, and gain bonus critical chance when hitting from the foe, the side, or behind of 7%. So you can try to angle that, and again, that's another thing Thieves Guild is good for. Enemies will target something else, allowing you to be at the side. Otherwise, they'll just keep looking at you over and over and over again. Obviously, for wild bosses and metal events, then you can trigger this for yourself, even without Thieves Guild, very comfortably. But so this one's very strong. So is Assassin's Fury. So this is gain might whenever you gain Fury. And that means that every time we go in, we mark, we get Thrill of the Crime Fury, and that gives us might. We also are going to very quickly going to get Unrelenting Strikes, but these 2 tend to overlap, and so then you don't get the Assassin's Fury. There's like a way of playing this where it's all Fury, crazy might, but you get enough might from Unload itself that I don't value this quite as much as Twin Fangs. I think Twin Fangs is probably the best. The only real dud is this, Signets of Power. Now, you're going to think, well, what? You're not taking a Signet trait, WP, even though you have 3 Signets? Isn't that a bit insane? Well, it seems it, doesn't it? But let's see what this actually does. It's Signets gain reduced recharge time. So that's nice, I guess. We can now Assassin Signet a bit more regularly. But the way our utility skills come off cooldown is it's based on proportional percentage stuff, which we'll look at with another trait later. So the recharge chunk down doesn't actually mean much, really, for the build. It means a little something, but it doesn't mean much. The other part is that they gain additional passives, so that sounds good. Wow, do we get more power now? Do we get even more precision? Well, actually, no, it's do a thing on kill. So now our heal is healing us whenever you kill. Assassin Signet is giving us might when we kill. Well, we already have a lot of might. And Signet of Agility is giving us endurance when we kill. Well, we don't really find ourselves dodging that often if we're playing this well. So none of it really matters that much. It's not as good as it looks. I mean, you could definitely play it. And I'm probably underestimating the recharge time a little in my commentary here. But overall, Twin Fangs get those kills in quicker. That's what I like here. Next, there's a clear winner trait, though I think they're fairly close. You've got ankle shots. So, critical hits with our pistols, cripple foes. So, there is an ICD, it only lasts 3 seconds. It's not perma-cripple, that's why I mentioned the pressure striking cripple before. But we have pretty good cripple here. So, that's a nice little bit of break bar, either drain or just sustaining. Now, if you run like Ghost Pepper Poppers, so you're crippling and chilling just as you constantly shoot, well, you're in luck. Especially at nighttime, like we are here in Path of Fire right now. But this is really good because what it means is when you CC or something, say with Blinding Shadow, and you chunk their break bar down, but you don't fully break it, it's not going to regenerate super quick. It stays there. On top of it, it's a 10% modifier. 5% for using pistols, 5% against crippled foes. It's brilliant. This is a great trait. It's either that or practice tolerance, which is ferocity. Overall, I think you get more value out of the cripple here. And then Sundering Shade is a bit of Vuln. Vuln is nice, don't get me wrong. One of the reasons Blinding Shadow is very good, by the way, is because it's 15 vulnerability. And this build is great on might and great on damage and all kinds of things. However, it is a little bit more limited on vulnerability. So this is an excellent thing that you can run here, the Blinding Shadow instead. So you can get a bit of Vuln. And you can take a bit of Vuln here. The Fury is irrelevant, though. I don't find myself using the Malicious Attack that regularly, that this really counts for as much as just so much other stuff from ankle shots. So ankle shots. All right, and then we have the GM. Now for the GM, there's two very realistic options. You can either be at the bottom or you could be at the top. And I'm going to explain how you would use both of them. The only one I'd really ignore is the middle one, Hidden Killer. This gives you a 100% crit chance on your stealth attacks. So maybe there's like a rifle build. This is a fun trait, but also a weird one because it doesn't really synergize with all the other crit chance you're getting from the miners and stuff. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. So you've got no quarter, first of all. Landing a critical hit while under the effects of Fury increases the duration of your Fury. So that side of the trait we don't really care about too much because we already have so much Fury, but it is nice. The other side, though, is increased ferocity while under the effects of Fury. Now that's huge. All right, 250 ferocity for the build. You can't go very far wrong with that. This, you will really feel yourself doing a lot more damage. And especially if way back here, you took Assassin's Fury. I think the Grandmaster should proc Assassin's Fury Monk. Maybe not, because it's just extending the duration. But this is big damage, okay? So you could treat PvE by default, taking the no quarter big damage. And for what it's worth, at no point in this video have you seen me running this, okay? All the quick, single animation kills you've been seeing me do, they haven't been reliant on that Grandmaster trait. But now that we have it, our damage is even higher. It's a shame we never one-shot that guy. But you can feel it, I promise. You can feel this trait and all the damage you start rolling out of it. So you could just say, this is the way I want to play. And when it comes to Corteria, totally run this. Totally. However, if you think you're going to run into a champion, if you want to be a little bit more brain dead through your whole play session, if you're in more recent story missions, say you're in the Balthazar boss fight, or even just, standard running around in any story mission, and you think you're going to aggro a little bit more heavily, Invigorating Precision is the way to go. So this is like your heal skill, but on crack. Listen to this. You are healed for a percentage of outgoing critical hit damage. The healing is increased while you're under Fury. Well, we're going to be under Fury. So basically, guys, we're building to 100% crit chance, as we always are. So 20% of all the damage we do comes back as healing. I don't know if you guys saw my Scrapper open world build. It did a similar thing for Barrier. And this stuff is so strong. This obviously won't over-heal you, and we do have a low vitality pool. In fact, on this video, I've been showing you 11k health, which is the lowest we can be. But this will resustain you so heavily. You can actually just run this and not even the Signet, and you'll feel the weight of this. This trait is insane and kind of like unlocks that smooth, comfortable PvE experience that I've been talking about and trying to present you through these videos. If you are thinking, oh, damage, definitely, go for this. But for the vast majority of you, I can promise the most fun, comfortable way to play this game is Invigorating Precision. Invigorating Precision is an extraordinary trait that I think in some ways like unhinges the whole idea of Thief, of being like a glass cannon, like, oh, I'm squishy, but I have big output. You're not squishy if you take this. You are not squishy. It's an incredible trait, and so that is what I'm actually taking here. So the ultimate, I actually go bottom on critical strikes. And that's one of the reasons I like crit strikes, because you know, you can re-sustain through Deadly Arts, through Mug and stuff, but it's kind of a nice setup this here, because depending on how confident you are, you can just kind of toggle these, right? This is like a nice little toggle that you can do, and it's very simple for you, and you can kind of just tackle any challenge you like. So, lastly, we have Deadeye. Deadeye is pretty simple through and through. First of all, we get Renewing Gaze. We gain regeneration whenever we kill someone. Isn't that relevant? But some nice boon variety, I suppose. Next, you got Iron Sight. Do extra damage to our marked target and take less damage from our marked target. They're always going to be marked. It's a nice little asset. Maybe you mark someone who's ranged and now you're not so threatened by him by a little bit. Next, we have, for the first slot, I would really only run Malicious Intent. What this does is after you mark, you instantly gain a little bit of bonus malice, and it means that you can get to your stealth, just a bit, your ambush attack, sorry, that little bit quicker by proccing your stolen skill, and, you know, get whatever value out of malice you're looking for as well. So I like that. It's not too bad to run collateral damage. So this is trigger a burst of shadows whenever you kill something. So this is a massive explosion of damage. Look at that. It's blind and over 1,000 damage. This can crit too. And if you think about the pocket raptor fight I was doing before, collateral damage is insane. You kill one pocket raptor, it explodes and does loads of damage to the other ones. Super cool. That won't then trigger a chain reaction like Guild Wars 1 Edge of Extinction or anything, because you do have to mark your next target. But you could run around Burst of Shadow Mug marking someone on a Deadly Arts variant if you like, which is kind of fun. But in general, I think the radius on this is too tight. It's only 240, and overall Malicious Intent is more fun. For one in the chamber, just getting lots more stolen skills, I just don't think it's that worth it. I wouldn't go for it. For this next trait selection, they actually all look really good, but I think one is the clear winner. So first, for the top, there's Silent Scope. Now, this is mostly a rifle trait, but don't dismiss it completely. It also gives you a bit of precision, even if you're like on pistol. So if your crit chance is really struggling, maybe you can look at this. But beyond that, I wouldn't worry too much. This one down here is pretty good as well. Deal more damage for each unique boon on us, and gain extra concentration. So our might last longer, so rolls higher more regularly. So our fury and all those things last higher. So also now our vigor lasts a little bit longer. But also this big boon range we get means we're doing damage. So this vigor now represents damage for us. And the regeneration from Renewing Gaze represents damage for us. So this is an okay trait. It's not bad. But to me, payback is the way to go. Most of what I've been talking about on this video is about payback. This actually feels Grandmaster quality to me in open world. This isn't that good in raids. It's not that good in PvP. It's not that good in World vs. World necessarily. Because a lot of things you're killing in other formats don't give you experience and won't trigger this. But check it out. When Renewing Gaze triggers, so this trait, whenever we kill someone, we get Renewing Gaze. Now, whenever we get Renewing Gaze, this trait restores a portion of the recharge time needed by your healing, utility, and elite skills at 20%. So, what that means is we should take 2 minutes to cool down Thieves Guild, but 20% of that will chunk down. It's not like 5 seconds will chunk down, so it doesn't really mean much. This is giving us tens of seconds. It's giving us huge amounts of value in return every time we score a kill. And so that's why when we were looking at the Signet trait before, this reduces their recharge. Well, this would just... we think of recharges in terms of kills now, right? In theory. And so if we take this, it just means that payback is only restoring a smaller chunk in terms of seconds, right? So we just will always get all of our skills back if we score like 4 kills, all right? It's technically 5 kills, but you're also going to take a bit of time for it. So it's pretty much every 4 kills, all of these are back. Kill 4 things, Thieves Guild's back. Kill 4 things, Thieves Guild's back. Now there is one interaction you want to think about, and if you rewatch the montage at the start, you will see this very clearly. The way that Thieves Guild used to be designed is that you could summon your 3 thieves, trigger Renewing Gaze 4 times, or 5 times with very quick kills, and then the cooldown would be back. You'd cast it and you could have 6 thieves with you. Well, the devs realized that's a bit OP. So what actually happens now is as soon as the game detects that this is off cooldown, they'll die. And they actually die prematurely. They should last 24 seconds. But if you get 4 kills before that, which you will, they'll actually just despawn early. So just watch that. Whenever this recharges, just press it again. But, I mean, you might think, oh, well, that's an anti-synergy WP. It's not a big deal, okay? Usually they would be doomed to die a couple of seconds later anyway. And it's just kicked in a bit early. You just recast this. Quite often you have quickness or whatever on you, and you're fine. So that's payback, and that's where suddenly you're getting a lot more breakbar damage more regularly from Binding Shadow or whatnot. That's how we're able to continue even using the active of Assassin's Signet, and there you have it. I love this trait. The other two are pretty strong too, but I love this trait. Last but not least, we have the Grandmaster. And you can kind of mess about here. You really can if you like. So Maleficent 7, if you're against a really big boss, when you max out your Malice, you get just a crap ton of boons, okay? And so if you're fighting a single long-term boss and you've got Mercy on your build to reset your mark and just go again, then Maleficent 7 can be just like really crazy fun for you. If you think you're going to be around a lot of allies, say you've wound up in a meta event, say you're doing the Moors down here on this map and there's some other players near you, Fire for Effect can be okay. Think of this as like a turbocharged Thrill of the Crime. Thrill of the Crime is whenever you find a new target, you mark it, you give everyone a little bit of fury and might, okay? This one is you mark it and you've now got a stolen skill. You use the stolen skill, you give everyone around you epic fury and might, including yourself, okay? So there are some circumstances where this might be fun, but to me, the clear winner, despite the fact you can play around, is be quick or be killed. Every time you mark someone, you get quickness. Every time you have quickness, you have 200 power and 200 precision. And you're just going to keep rolling through kills, okay? So as long as you're killing quick, you've got almost perma quickness, right? As long as you're rolling through that. You can supplement that quickness in some ways, like I said, with a trick, with a utility skill, and that may very well be worthwhile doing. You can obviously play into your gear with that, but I love be quick or be killed. I think this is the best thing you can do just for running around, and hopefully I've justified why that is so. So there you go. That's your traits. That is the way that I would run PP Deadeye in the open world. Lastly, just to look at gear. Sometimes your quickness will drop, sometimes certain things will go down. So Diviners is definitely one of those options that you can run here. You can even put a Sigil of Agility on your pistol because you're constantly weapon swapping for quick pockets. And, you know, that's just a little bit more quickness for you just to make sure that you're getting all that extra value out of the be quick or be killed here. Though Agility has pretty high cooldown for very little uptime, so you want to think about that quite carefully before you do it. And then all the other standard gear considerations I've illustrated to you guys in that dedicated video. I definitely recommend you guys check out. Are great for this build. So that's in the playlist down in the description if you guys want to go a little bit further with it. But this is it. This is how I like to play open world, standard, regular, Guild Wars 2 optimized Thief for the open world and story content. Hopefully you learned a little something. Let me know what you think and if there's any swaps you might like to see down below. And I'll be back for another one of these videos very soon. Enjoy, guys. Tell me how it goes, and I'll see you next time.